This is Wedding DJ School, your guide to the business of a wedding DJ. We're talking with leaders in the wedding entertainment industry. You're going to hear their backstories, how they got started, and where they are today. Hey, it's Josh Mitchell, and before we get to today's episode, I want to let you know about the free action guides that you can get if you just text Wedding DJ to the number 44222. If you do that, we will ask for your email address, and then we will send you access to all of the action guides from season 1 of the podcast. There is a ton of valuable content and information that will help you grow as a business owner, and I really want to make sure that you get that because it's valuable to help you grow. All you have to do is text the word Wedding DJ, all one word, to the number 44222. In today's episode, you're going to meet Jesse Swanson. He is the owner of Chaos Productions, and they are based in Omaha, Nebraska. What I love about Jesse is his kindness and his willingness to just listen and answer very thoughtfully. You'll notice that in today's episode. Also, be listening for some of the habits that Jesse talks about. There's little things that you can do that'll make a huge difference in your business and in your life, and Jesse has many of those great takeaways that you'll hear today. So here he is. I hope you enjoy a lot of great value packed into this conversation.
So my name is Jesse Swanson. I own a company based out of Omaha, Nebraska called Chaos Productions. We are a DJ photo booth. Then we have lighting options, uplighting and monogram as well. I've been in business 16 years. I started when I was 19 years old. And ever since then, it's been a hefty growing process, and we learn more and more every day.
Jesse, so is your company a multi-op? Are you a single op? What does that look like in terms of kind of where you're at these days?
Yeah, so I definitely, like everybody else, I started out as a single op, grew, and of course we get to that point of getting more inquiries than we can take on, and you determine if you're just going to keep sending those brides away. So I went ahead and the hustler in me became a multi-op and brought on one DJ to start with, of course. And I figured out, man, this is working really well. That first DJ was a friend of mine. The friend DJs, they last a year or two, and then kind of the passion fizzles out. But as of right now, end of 2019, we have 5 DJs. My team is phenomenal. It's almost to the point where I struggle selling myself because my DJs are so awesome, and they've kind of got names in the community where they've built reputations for themselves. And I feel really blessed to be where we're at.
That's fantastic. Jesse, I want you to take me back to when you were 19 years old, and what was your life like then? What were you doing at that point? What kind of got you into the industry? Paint the picture for me for what that was like back then.
So I come from a small town in Iowa, about 7,000 people. It's called Atlantic, Iowa. That's where I was born and raised. It's where I graduated from. And I was a musician. I started playing drums at 8 years old, went through high school in garage bands, played a lot of the 90s grunge, alternative music, and graduation hit, and all the bandmates go off to college. One went to Florida, one went across the state, and I stayed home. I didn't go to college right away. And I was like, I got to keep doing music somehow. Drummer can't just go out solo. So I kind of got into DJing. I bought a set of speakers and I started playing music, little events that friends needed. And that's how it began. I was in the bars DJing before I was 21. So I thought that was like the coolest thing ever. By the time I was 21, I was about sick of the bar scene, but I started getting inquiries about weddings. I'd say it took 4 or 5 weddings for me to really fall in love with them and figure out what they were about. But once I fell in love with the wedding industry, it just blossomed from there.
Wow. So much to unpack there that I want to talk a little bit more about before we move on. The first thing is just kind of this idea of getting paid as a DJ. And I know we want to talk more today a little bit about this idea of value and what that looks like in terms of, not just setting your price, but like what is the value that you're bringing when you do an event. But speak a little bit to kind of what was going through your mind when you first started getting paid to show up and DJ. What was that like?
So I remember the first wedding I actually charged for, the first wedding that wasn't for a friend or family. And I remember I charged $350 for that wedding. And I walked up to the bride at the very end of the night. I was proud of the job I did. I remember how scared I was to ask for that check because $350 seemed like so much money for what I just did because I enjoyed it. It was fun. I celebrated with these people. And then I'm like, give me all this money, which at the time was like what I was making in a week at my full-time job, you know? I remember shaking. I've told that story many times, how scared I was to collect that first paycheck. And it didn't get easier right away. You know, asking for that money was always tough because I didn't have business built into me. I didn't understand. I earned my own money. I'm used to getting a paycheck, you know, where I have an hourly wage above my head and I put those hours in and that's what I get paid. Now transferring to the effort and the knowledge that I put in converting to dollar signs. So that was really where I had to change my mindset and start figuring out what I was worth.
Can we talk a little bit about what was like the planning like even for that first wedding? Do you remember kind of sitting down with them beforehand? Kind of what did that look like?
Amateur hour for sure. You know, I knew traditions. We're in the Midwest. Midwest traditions and values are very enrooted in us. So we're very traditional. I'd been to plenty of weddings, but the planning was definitely not personalized. At that time, I didn't think about sitting down with couples. It's just like, hey, what songs do you want? That's all I'm doing is playing music, right? There was no talking about timeline, anything like that. I was very young and dumb. We'll say that.
So at what point did that change for you? At what point did it kind of transition from being an amateur kind of $350 thing to kind of, hey, I'm going to take this seriously now, turn it into a real business, take it, get more organized, that kind of thing. When did that transition happen?
So there was a couple phases. The organization didn't take too long, a year or two, and I started figuring out. And also keep in mind, this was all pre-social media. So I couldn't go on Facebook and ask opinions of great professionals in New Jersey. You know, I didn't know anybody in the industry. I was learning this all on the fly as we went, just thinking I'm the best because there's nobody around here to be better than me. But yeah, the transition period of figuring out traditions and that I should be planning, I should take more consideration. It really came into other vendors coming to me and being like, hey, you know, have you tried to do this? Have built friendships with a photographer that really helped me out as to say, you're doing great, but maybe do this. And he actually hired me to DJ his wedding, this photographer that I built a friendship with. And at the time, one of my big flaws was I was a DJ, so I didn't think I had to wear dress clothes. I was the cool DJ, right? At the time, the cool thing was ripped up jeans, baseball cap. But I hide behind a DJ booth, so it's no big deal. Well, he hired me to DJ his wedding, and he said, there's only one stipulation. You will not wear blue jeans to my wedding. That was the last time I ever wore blue jeans to a wedding, was when he said that. And that really was a huge tipping point in my career.
Wow. Yeah. So even at that point in your journey, this idea of connecting with vendors and letting them speak into you, like they're not just there to get a job done. Some of the vendors, like in your case, this photographer, was kind of coming alongside you as this mentor in a way and kind of guiding you. Were there any other takeaways or tips that person gave just in terms of helping you think about business and growth?
He was a little bit older than me. So, he had a corporate job. He dressed in a suit to go to work every day. He just made me realize the professionalism side and made me take a step back and look at like, oh my gosh, this is a wedding. Like I'm not a DJ, I'm a wedding DJ. And that's what I took away. That's when I decided all the other DJ stuff is off to the side. I'm not going to do the bars anymore. To me, a DJ and a wedding DJ are two different things. You can be both, But they're two different things for sure.
And did that wedding go well with that photographer when you executed on that?
Yeah, it went fantastic. He laid down, like I said, some of the ground rules of this is what I want at my wedding. It was at an extremely nice venue, probably the nicest venue I'd played at that point, because it's actually the hotel that he worked at. It was a high-end Marriott hotel, and I had to dress the part and be the part, and made me feel good about myself.
Wow. So what happened from there? Like how did you, like, once you kind of stopped wearing jeans to weddings, which I think is that's fantastic. I love that little detail there. How did your business grow, or how did you get more people to find out about you after kind of, you went from the bar scene, you transitioned, you decided, hey, I'm gonna put this stake in the ground, and I'm not gonna go back to just kind of bumming it with a baseball cap on, but I'm gonna take this professionally. Kind of what happened from there in terms of growth?
So social media really helped a lot. That happened around the 2009, 2010 area. I think I was able to create a business page in 2011, roughly. That helped a lot because at that time, I was, let's say 24, 25 years old, probably 4 to 5 years into my DJ career. And I was able to represent myself however I wanted. So I could start to create a brand at that point, which prior it was pure word of mouth, maybe hand out a business card here and there. So I will say social media was definitely instrumental in the growth of my business.
And do you remember any specifics in terms of how you presented yourself on social? Was it a certain kind of photo that you were trying to make sure people knew about? Was it just kind of regular posting? What were kind of some of the strategies that you used?
At first, anything that involved me and DJing, I was posting it. I wanted people to know I was out there. I wanted people to know I was a DJ, whether, I got into DJing the MMA fight scene for a while, which was a great experience. Anytime I was DJing one of those, I'm definitely pushing it out there, saying this is where I'm at. I'm getting to be around these cool people. But it didn't transition to more of a high-end premier brand until I started going to trainings. That was really when I figured out that you need to target your brand at the demographic that you're hoping to get.
Tell me a little bit more about that. What does that mean?
So I've gone up to Midwest DJs Live up in Milwaukee. You see some of these guys speak that have been doing it 20, 25 years. They're still passionate for it. They still love what they do, but they've worked out the kinks. They've made the mistakes as well as I have. And you see the passion in their eyes and the fact that they are a little older than me and they're still doing this. And that keeps you knowing, like, I can do this. I don't have to quit when I'm 25 because I'm not young and still have hair. Going up to these trainings, they talk about a lot of different things that just push you to be better and know you're worth more than what you originally thought.
I want to take some time and kind of talk about this idea of value with you. At the beginning of the interview here, you mentioned that you were a drummer and a musician. I'm a musician as well. And, I remember those early days of you're playing music and then you're getting paid, to do music with DJing. And there's kind of that initial passion or that initial honeymoon phase. But then you do have to create a business. You do have to recognize your value. So speak to us a little bit just about the importance of value and the importance of setting up a real business and how you've kind of shaped that in your own practice.
So it's only been within about the last, I'd say 6 to 8 years that I started realizing this is now a profession. This is 100% of who I am and what I want to do. And in order to do that, I do have bills to pay. I do have a family to feed. And if I want to focus all my energy on my clients, I'm going to have to make myself valuable enough to make a living doing it. you have to make it yourself worth something before you can charge a certain price for something. Not every DJ is worth a premium price because they haven't gotten themselves to that point yet. I see some DJs bash on others about pricing, and it's the industry. But sometimes you have to look at that person's circumstance and realize maybe they're not worth a premium price quite yet. Let's help them get there, because it's not just their performance or their presentation. It comes down to confidence. Are they able to sell themselves at a price that they're worth? And that it can get really deep. I can go on about that for a long time, but I wanted to be a premium brand. I didn't want to be fighting for the cheapest. I knew I didn't have to take every wedding anymore. I can pick my amazing clients, DJ at amazing venues, work with great staffs, great photographers. And the more I saw that, the more I fell in love with it, and the more I wanted to be better.
Wow. I think that's a huge realization that not every wedding has to be your wedding. And I've said before that I initially felt this twinge of guilt or anxiety on weekends that I was home, not DJing, wondering, should I be out there right now? And, who's DJing these weddings? And it was so reassuring to find out that actually, you know what? It's okay, because those weren't your clients in the first place. And not every client has to be your client. What are some of the ways that you've been able to distinguish that and kind of know, for even where you're at right now, but even speak to kind of the beginner, what are some things that you need to start kind of having in your brain in terms of qualifying, okay, this person is my client or this person isn't?
So now that we're established, and now that I'm getting multiple inquiries a day, in the beginning, of course, you want to fill your calendar. Your best advertisement is you being out working and at weddings. Nobody sees you working if you're not out there. So when you start, you definitely have to take what you can get. But when you're turning down brides, that's when you can start filtering out, maybe this is going to be a trouble client, or maybe that's too far for me to travel. The consultations become more of an interview both ways. And I've told clients that straight up, like, I know you're figuring out right now if you like me, but I'm figuring out the same thing. Like, there's times when other DJs will be a better fit for you, and I'll be happy to guide you to them if I'm not the right fit. So with that, the clients that I do get, we build lasting friendships. I've got clients that I DJ for that we're friends on social media. We run into each other at public events. That's truly the most rewarding thing of what I do, is these lasting friendships. And I think you really only get that when you do start to see your value and represent that in a high-end way.
Well, this is huge. I want to pause here for a second and just kind of linger on this idea again of when we think about the sales process. So you think about kind of, prospecting, and you want to get the sale and you're trying to convince them. At the beginning stages, you're usually just trying to win the sale. How can I get them to say yes? I'll do anything. Oh, you want lavalier microphones? I'll give you 10 of them. Oh, you want 12? It's like, I don't even know how I'm going to pull it off. I just want your business. But it's so interesting to hear, especially from you and other top performers in the industry, people that have kind of figured it out and they have confidence. They're no longer just out there trying to get business. It's this kind of reverse interview idea that really, a client comes your way, you don't look at it as this person that you have to chase. So what are some other things, like you mentioned location, you mentioned kind of like, hey, is it going to be a good working relationship? What are some other things that you have found over the years of whether or not the bride or the groom or whoever is contacting you is going to be the right fit for your company?
So for example, I met with a bride last night, and culture comes into play for me. I don't speak any other languages. I don't speak Spanish. And this bride, her wedding was going to be 50% Hispanic. I don't need to say, I'll figure that out. By the time your wedding comes, I'll figure out how to speak Spanish, or I'll do research on the music. I know my place. But by the time we left that consultation, I had another DJ booked for her who knows Hispanic like the back of his hand. He can speak Spanish, and he loves doing those events. So instead of me saying like, this has to be my client, I helped her find the DJ that's going to suit her needs. So demographic is definitely one of them. And it's just out of respect for cultures. I want them to get what they deserve. I want to learn all those cultures, but that takes a long time. You can't Google Hispanic music and go rock a Hispanic wedding. It just isn't like that. They have genres of music just like we do. And if you Google American music, we're not going to like all of it. It's the same way with other cultures. Also, social media has come into play a lot. It's just like a job interview. When you apply at a job, they're going to look you up on Facebook and see what you're about, see what your values are, see what you enjoy. I won't lie. I research my clients. When I get an inquiry, you can look them up right on social media. And more often than not, you can find more details about them than they really think you can. So I can pre-qualify clients before a consultation quite often.
You mentioned consultations. Tell me a little bit more about that kind of onboarding process from the moment that somebody reaches out to you to whether or not you meet with them in person, have a phone call, that kind of thing. What have you found works well, and what does that process look like in your world?
So I love meeting people in person. The younger generation, as they come up, they're more online people. I've got a 15-year-old daughter. If a guy said, hey, can we meet up for coffee to talk about this? She'd say, heck no. Like, I'm good right here. I will email you. I feel safe. I'm in my bubble. But when we can meet in person, I can see their personality. They can see my personality. Anybody can type a great message and say, we can do this, we can do that. I want to see what they want, and I want to make sure I can provide that, and maybe even give them ideas of things that they don't know they want yet. Like, hey, have you guys seen this? Or, your mother does this for a living. Maybe we can incorporate some of this in there, just bounce some great ideas around to figure out how to personalize their wedding. That's the goal, is making sure I don't go out and DJ the same wedding 4 times in 1 month. I want to DJ dramatically different weddings over and over.
Yeah, and it's in terms of industry trends right now, I'm not an expert on this by any means, but one thing that I am realizing, I'm a part of another course right now that is talking about the importance of in-person events in terms of the ratio to convert a person to a sale. The percentage is way higher when you have somebody in person and you meet with them, as opposed to trying to do it all digitally, especially when you're just starting off. And when I talk to people like you and I talk to other people, even though kind of the norm for the younger generation is to do it all online and to do it all digitally, the statistics kind of prove that when you go to an in-person consultation and you make that extra step to go in person, the percentage rate of them actually becoming a customer is a lot higher. So I totally am in line with what you're saying, as much as that's like against the grain of kind of where the culture is going. It's a good tip for somebody who's a beginner right now to think, if you want higher converting leads, get them to meet you in person. And where have you met with people? Do you have an office, or have you met with people at different locations?
Yeah, so I always meet somewhere publicly. I usually either researching them or asking them a place they're comfortable with. I've got a couple microbreweries within vicinity of me, but I also understand that not everybody is okay with that. There's maybe a recovering alcoholic. You don't want to meet them at a microbrewery. We've got to figure out kind of who they are and what they want. I do still meet at the coffee shops from time to time. They can be a little stuffy. I tell clients, I want my meetings to be fun. I'm the DJ. Let's meet someplace fun. Maybe a Dave and Buster's where we can play arcade games while we're talking about your wedding. Something just to represent that I'm the fun part of your wedding. Like I said, we still do a lot of the coffee shops and Panera Bread, stuff like that. But I like to meet someplace where we can show our personalities.
Hmm. Do you have any tips or suggestions or things that you do to help kind of draw out your personality, to help kind of create those fun moments that you're talking about?
I listen, first of all. That's the most important thing is I want them to talk. The more they talk, the more I get to know who they are. And when they give me a lot of information, then I can explain, I can pick different pieces of who they are and figure out where my strengths are going to fit in with their needs and who they are. Maybe client I met a couple days ago, he's still in a grunge band. I'm like, that's my era, man. Like, that's where I came from. No, that's not going to contribute to a dance floor, but hey, what do you think about maybe finding acoustic covers of some really good like Nirvana and Bush tunes? And he's like, oh my gosh, that would be amazing. It's just a solution for his needs to where we can incorporate him in there.
Are you using any kind of online planning tools, or what does your digital incorporation look like with some of that in-person conversations?
So I'm still old school. Um, Reason for that is I like the personalization. It's also why I haven't grown my company bigger than what it is now, which I know some guys will say, you're silly. You could double the size of your business and double your income. But I really like that personalization. I like speaking to people one-on-one. I've looked into the online management services multiple times, and I just haven't jumped on board yet. I want to be the one. I'm available night and day for my clients, so a computer doesn't need to do my job for me right now.
I love this though, because it kind of proves that don't kind of go chasing the shiny object as a as a way to solve all your problems for your business. It doesn't matter if you pick HoneyBook or not. Just get out there, start your company. You can run your company without those tools. So I love that you're a testament to that fact.
I try not to advocate for that because I know they're all great services. And I just don't have a personal experience where they've changed my life yet. So definitely try them out. Maybe they are for you. This is just how I still do things.
Absolutely. And I think what's important at the end of the day is you have to have the mindset of thinking about your company and thinking about your clients, and you can't have software replace your mindset. Your mindset is super important in your business. Let's go back for a few minutes about this idea of value. You said a few minutes ago, you have to make yourself valuable before you can charge something. Say a little bit more about that.
So a lot of the industry, what I've seen is guys go straight after the dollar sign. They say, you're a wedding DJ, you should charge at least this much. Where I don't totally disagree with that, we need to make sure they're worth that much. There's two sides to it. We all started somewhere. I will tell you, when I was that $350 DJ, I was worth $350. There's no denying, if I would have charged what I charge today, I would have been robbing these people because I wasn't worth it. I didn't take into account how serious a wedding was. I didn't even wear dress clothes. There was a lot of things that I've changed from then to now to be worth what I'm worth. Equipment can come into that, reliable equipment. You don't have to spend $3,000 on a pair of speakers if you don't want to. We all have to start somewhere. But make sure that your speakers sound good. Make sure your wireless microphone doesn't cut out in the middle of speeches. Spend the money where it counts to start with. And as you grow, then you'll kind of grow into the high-end equipment, suits, marketing materials. You'll eventually get there, but nobody can afford it from day one.
What are some things that are valuable that don't necessarily cost money?
Professionalism. You go into these meetings. What do you wear to a consultation? Are you just out shopping with the family and you swing in your football jersey because it's Sunday? To me, that's not a valuable consultation. You're not representing yourself well. They're going to look at you and see how seriously you're taking yourself as a professional, and that's going to represent how you're going to treat their wedding. Show up representing yourself. That there's plenty of times I'm walking around the house in a hoodie and sweatpants on a Sunday afternoon, and I will change my clothes into my suit to go to a consultation. I'll come back and change right back into my sweats. But for that hour, I'm representing myself. That's professionalism, timeliness. Those are things that you can't buy. They have to be inside you.
Yeah, and they communicate respect. They communicate that you care because you took the time to go above and beyond, and nobody paid you extra to put on the suit. Nobody paid you extra to be there on time or a little bit earlier so that so that traffic wasn't an excuse. These aren't things that you say, "Oh, I'll pay you $10 extra to get to the meeting early." It doesn't have a price tag, but it communicates this guy is going to, or girl is going to go above and beyond to deliver on the promise that they set out to. As you think back and you kind of reflect on your career, and even just, this could be something recent as well. Have you ever made a mistake, or has there been something that just didn't go right? And can you frame that in such a way that would be encouraging to someone that is on the front end of their journey right now?
Mistakes. There's been plenty of times I have forgotten equipment. You go through your mental checklist, you wake up that day. Luckily, there's never been a catastrophe. I've always been able to either go back home and get it. I'm always a person that I'm super early. I wake up, the only thing on my mind that morning is that wedding. I'm usually pacing the house, watching my clock, wondering okay, is it time to leave yet? And then I'll end up leaving an hour early anyway. So it's always worked great there. I don't know. Mistake-wise.
Or has there ever been anything that has gone wrong, or that didn't turn out the way that you planned, or a miscommunication thing? I'm just trying to, in some ways, encourage the person that they are going to face setbacks and that's normal.
I guess there was one situation 2 years ago that I'll never forget, and it changed who I am. I had a consultation set up. I operate off of Google Calendar. That's how I keep everything organized. Somehow I did not put this consultation on my calendar. I woke up in the morning to a missed phone call saying these people were sitting, waiting for me. My heart sunk, bottom of my stomach. I called them back. The groom was not happy. The groom told me how he felt. I said, I will come to you. Just tell me where. I'll come to your house. I owe this to you guys. Like, even if you don't book me, like, I owe my time to you guys. And I went there. He was very blunt groom. He let me have it. And his bride, she's like, oh, calm down, calm down. He's like, no, he screwed up. There was plenty of profanity in there. I said, no, I screwed up. I deserve all of this and more, but I can assure you this will not happen for your wedding. That was probably the biggest screw up I've ever had. And still to this day, that haunts me. I put double things in my calendar. I set double reminders because that was the worst feeling in the world. It's like the nightmare that you wake up and go to work with no pants on, like that's what it felt like. I just couldn't fix it. But we ended up DJing their wedding. It was phenomenal. They're a great couple. I'm friends with them now, but it was something I had to fix.
Wow. Yeah, and I've had a couple experiences like that as well, both in and outside of the wedding industry. In fact, there was a time where The couple thought that I would be there for their rehearsal, to DJ the rehearsal. And that's something that I stopped doing a while ago just because of the extra time involved. I had other commitments and I couldn't be there on weeknights, but somehow in their head, they were planning on me being there. And I got that same similar call from the groom, like, where are you? We're all here. And meanwhile, I was like, I was somewhere else doing something completely different, and that sinking heart feeling like, what am I going to do to make this up? And I know that the father of the bride wasn't happy about it. And those moments happen. And this is why good communication, and not just reviewing your calendar, but making sure your calendar is accurate and making sure that what's on there needs to be on there. And is there anything that's missing? And to ask yourself that question, is there anything missing on my calendar that hasn't gotten on here? So it's important. Get those things out of your head. If you're storing things in your head right now, take the time and get them out. I don't care if you use a Post-it note or use a to-do app. I use an app called Todoist. It doesn't really matter what you use. Just pick something to get it out of your head, put it somewhere so that you can review it, and that's going to help you in your business, and you'll experience less stress. But thanks for sharing that story. That was a good one. Are there any pet peeves that you have when you see other DJs do these things? It just kind of rubs you the wrong way, or you're just kind of like, yeah, I don't like when DJs do that.
So I've grown to be a cable Nazi. I cannot stand visible cables. It just seems like one of those things that it's such an easy thing to fix. I mean, you can look in the back, like even my cables right here are tied up, and they don't need to be. This is my office. I'm the only one that's going to see it. So I'm a cable Nazi for sure. Just presentation overall. It's so easy to just button things up. You owe it to your clients. Also, the DJs, kind of the DJ bullies online. Sometimes they forget where they came from. And I think we should be more apt to help the upcoming DJs with guys like you saying, like, we can share our experience with these guys, and hopefully, kind of like the mother hen, they don't have to make the same mistakes that we made coming up. It doesn't have to take them 16 years to get where I got. They can get there in 3 years if they just don't make the same mistakes that I made. So I think that's the biggest thing, is a lot of these guys, of course, the famous DJ ego that can come into play, and it's not going to go away, but it definitely bothers you knowing that there's guys out there trying to do the right thing and they're just looking for help.
Yeah. I think I wish there was like a billboard we could put up that just says "Be nice" online, because for the most part, the people that are asking these questions, even if they're phrased in such a way that doesn't seem like they're, have the best intentions, they're just looking for advice. They're looking for help, and people will jump right into the comment section and they'll just kind of, give them a piece of their mind. And it's like, come on, guys, we need to be nice. And it's so easy to just jump in and give advice. And I loved what you said about even in a consultation. I think this is great business advice too. Listen. Just kind of sit back and listen. You don't have to reply to everything that, shows up on your newsfeed. Every question and every argument that comes your way doesn't necessarily have to be something that you jump into. And you'll find that, what areas do you want to contribute to? And what areas are going to give you the most joy and the most life and the most kind of gratitude at the end of the day, as opposed to just kind of commenting and giving your 2 cents on absolutely everything. I think that's something that would be awesome in the coming years. I don't know if it'll happen or not. Maybe it's too ambitious of a goal to see, how about some more kindness and just some more humility, and let's just listen to each other. I think that's a good piece of advice that you gave us.
I heard an acronym here. It was so Tom Hanks did the Mr. Rogers, and he was doing an interview, and he said that he got taught an acronym, the word wait. If you remind yourself to wait, it's broken down, and why am I talking? If you listen to people, you remind yourself, like, Jesse, shut up. Like, quit talking about yourself. Just wait. Why am I talking at all? These people are here to give me all their information. Let's let them talk. So I think that's a helpful thing to keep in the back of your mind, is just wait. They'll give you all the information you want.
I love that. Oh, that's such a good takeaway. And I heard somebody recently say this idea of eliminate hurriness from your life? I think there's a lot of times a tendency for us to be in a hurry. We got to be the first to reply. Or we've got to get my 2 cents in before, before everything's going on. And really, we're not talking about. I'm not in this context. I'm not talking about replying to clients. I think that you should get back to clients quickly. I think that you should have a commitment to to replying and letting people know. But I'm talking about like in your heart and in your mind, and just kind of like, hey, if you're going to be in this business for a while, you've got to have some resilience. You've got to be able to kind of compose yourself and stay in the game. And to do that, that hurriedness that comes, there's always going to be a new speaker that comes out. There's always going to be new equipment. There's always going to be a latest trend, another seminar. And that idea of, oh, I got to rush and I got to get to it. It can destroy us if that's all that we do. If we're always going at 10 out of 10, there's no left over for our families and for ourselves and for everything else that's going on. So I think it's another side of this conversation that's not often talked about, which is how are you taking care of yourself and how are you taking care of your mind and your heart and just your family and everything that is involved there. And I think that what we'll see more of in the coming years is that the DJs that take care of themselves and that realize that they're doing emotional labor and not just music labor, not just equipment labor, not just lighting, but you're also, it's a part of your heart and soul. And that connection that you have with people is really what we're doing in this business. That's going to grow more and more.
Yeah, I like that.
Is there a goal that you're working towards right now, something that you're looking forward to in the coming years, or just something that you have your eye set on for the future?
So there's always DJ toys and equipment that we want to eventually get, of course. The end of this year was really huge for us. So 2020, we've already got set in stone kind of how things are going to go, but it's going to be a big year for us. We actually signed an exclusive deal with a venue where our DJ equipment's built in. All we have to do is go in and set up our laptop. The speakers are built in, the lights are built in. But this exclusive deal, we got 30 contracts for 2020 overnight that we had to take on. And that was a huge deal for us, quite an undertaking. I had 2 nights where I couldn't sleep because I'm like, can I do this? Is this manageable? I don't want to dig myself in too deep. Of course, reached out to some good DJ friends, and they're like, you can do this. It's just take a step back, get organized. You can do this better than, a lot of people. So we took that on. That's going to be an undertaking for 2020. Basically just the transition process. So I think that's my 2020 goals, is just staying organized, even being better organized, and making sure my employees have everything they need, making sure they have the training, they have the business knowledge, just making sure the clients get well taken care of. That's always the goal, is to do better than last year.
I think that's a great commitment. Hey, Jesse, can you give us one last word, one last piece of advice to somebody who is on the front end of their journey? They're looking at this wedding DJ stuff and they're not sure if they can do it. Just what encouragement and advice would you give to that person?
If they have the passion for it, this is an industry you have to love. It's a job. It's just like you going to college for something and you getting out of college and it not being what you want to do, because during college you figured out, like, I'll use my personal example. I went to college for auto body when I was 20 years old. I love cars. I love working on cars. By the time I got out of college, I never wanted to work on a car again, especially not at 8 o'clock in the morning sanding a paint job, So that's a prime example. And this industry, it's not made for everybody. There can be good money in it if you do it right, if you work really hard. But there can be good money in anything if you do it right and work hard. So I think that's the biggest thing for the new guys, is knowing, like, you have to have in your heart, this is what I want to do, because the couples deserve it and you deserve it. But if you do have that passion, this is definitely one of the most rewarding careers you can ever choose. You meet the most amazing people. from the client side. And also, don't forget to network. Get to those trainings. I've met some of the top guys in the industry. They're all so down to earth, so willing to help. Really, I can say 95% of my friends are DJs because they have the same passion as me. They love what I do. So that's really the biggest advice. It doesn't come down to performance. It doesn't come down to equipment. It comes down for the love of the game. Like, you have to love what you do.
Jesse, thanks so much for spending some time with us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I want to thank you so much for being a listener of Wedding DJ School. You can find us over at weddingdjschool.com. Also, you can text Wedding DJ to 44222. We will ask for your email address, and in return, we will send you all of the podcast action guides for season 1 of Wedding DJ School. So you can do that for free just by texting Wedding DJ to 44222. Lots of actionable advice that you can put to use right away, all for free. Well, we're going to continue talking with leaders in the wedding entertainment industry. We will be back next week with a new episode.